What is up, all you GBA top people? This is Tom, and I'm here bringing you guys my Week 10 match against Aster J and his Montreal Habsols. Now, before we go into this match, I'm going to apologize again because I am at work, as you can hear by the echoey, very large auditorium sound. Based on my schedule, what best I can do. I've recorded this now 4 times, with being interrupted, so I'm going to try and run through it faster than I was doing before. We're going to go to my team, then we're going to talk about his team. I also am going to do something a little bit different where I'm going to put poker paste screen caps of my team on the right side of the screen as I talk about it, just so you guys can see it. So I don't need to put the poker paste in the description. Maybe it'll work a little bit better. Let me know what you guys think if you like that, because I really don't like doing 10-20 minute team breakdown, team previews. I feel like this is a little bit better. I can go through it a little bit faster. Let's see how it works out. First of all, we have Rotom Wash. This is going to be a leftover set with 240 HP, 204 defense, and 52 speed. This is going to hit 1 point over modest max speed Spec Sylveon. That's what is something that's very threatening towards my team. And the set's going to be a Volt Switch Toxic Pain Split subset. This is going to coincide with another defensive check, as you're going to see right below it. Komodo leftover soundproof so that Sylveon can't go for a Hyper Voice. I expect if Sylveon was going to come, we see that doesn't, it was going to be a Psyshock Moonblast, potentially Hyper Voice, but hey, you know what? You cover your bases with a ability that's actually going to work as compared to having Bulletproof. It only, I believe, block out Gyro Ball, which Fortress in this match was not a really good bring, so I wasn't really worried about that. Anyway, Komodo is going to be a 212 HP, 204 defense, Impish Nature, 60 speed, same speed tier, outspeed a modest max speed Spec Sylveon. It's going to be Drain Punch, Flamethrower, Toxic, and Stealth Rock. Now, going over Rotom first. Rotom is specifically for Mudsdale as well as Darmanitan. It is a hard switch into Darmanitan based on if it goes for U-Turn or if it goes for Fire Move. Could also go for Superpower for Zen Headbutt, but not really the biggest deal. It is defensive. Obviously, it can take it. But this is mostly for Mudsdale, because if Mudsdale tries to come in thinking I'm going to go for an electric move, yeah, it'll block the Volt Switch is my only move, but I can get up behind a sub, whether he has Earthquake, Stomping Tantrum, Heavy Slam, or is Close Combat. Close Combat is going to be the only one that's going to be breaking my sub, but I do have switches for that, namely 2 Psychic types. He'll be dropping his defense and special defense, so Stamina won't really be working for him. I can go for Toxic, I can get up behind a sub in case he tries to get up rocks, and I can start toxicing him down as well as Pain Splitting. Now, sub Pain Split across most of Aster's team is super annoying. A lot of his team members are going to be either high HP, whether you're talking about Melodic, Zapdos, Sylveon, Fortress, Zapdos, if I said that right. Basically, I think they're going to be having HP investments. So, with Rotom being such a low HP, base HP count, basically Pain Spling can be back a lot of HP and can wear them down to force them to recover or to put them in range for other things to knock them out. Also, just Volt Switching in general. If I do predict a switch out, I can get some really good momentum and do some really good damage to the vast majority of things on his team. Now, Komodo is going to be my check for specifically Scolipede. It's also a side check for Darmanitan, but really don't want to switch into a Zen Headbutt or an Earthquake, especially if it is a Scarf set. Basically, this thing can take on any sort of Z variant Scolipede, because Scolipede doesn't have a super effective move for it. Best thing to hit me with is an Acid Downpour +2. I believe Jolly. It needs to be Jolly just based on the matchup. And that's still going to do max 97%, and I can knock him out or get him down super low with a Flamethrower. Now, Flamethrower is also there for Fortress. Drain Punch is there for things like Zoroark as well as Megalopony. If I am at full HP, I can take an HJK from a Adamant Megalopony, barely, and then Toxic is there just for good, for good damage, wear things down that might want to switch in, because things like Zapdos and Melodic could be switch-ins to a setup Komodo. And if I Toxic those, obviously it's going to not be a very good time for either of them. So, and then, of course, Stealth Rock. See the point about Zapdos coming in and taking that Toxic, taking that Stealth Rock. As we move on, you'll see another thing that's going to be a really big pest is Zapdos. So those are the 2 defensive things that I'm kind of going to be relying on really heavily to switch in and to take certain hits that I'm going to need the team to do overall. Next up, we have one of my main, I guess you can call it breakers. It's going to be an E-Belt Modest Technician Roserade. He's going to be carrying Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb. Dual Stab is really nice for his team, as well as Synthesis, because I'd like to remain healthy in case I need to switch in on a Rogue HP Ice or an Electric move or a Scald. And then I also have HP Ice. Now, That third move, or the fourth move I should say, it changed around a lot. Basically, it started off with like spikes, but I was never setting up spikes because then it gave Zapdos a free removal, and I couldn't really get him down into like a 50% range and could just roost off because Zapdos was like naturally faster, and even with a little bit of investment, outspeeds this Roserade. I do have speed to kind of creep his creep. I don't know if it's going to work, but if he runs a timid nature, then it doesn't matter, the speed. But it also outspeeds things like Gourgeist, which I think are necessary. 140 HP. 132 speed, 236 special attack. This thing hits really hard, and it's really hard for his team to deal with, especially his walls, because you look at Sylveon, you look at Melodic, you look at Zapdos, and you look at Mudsdale, all of which really don't like Roserade, so I'm gonna use that to my advantage. I also had Leaf Storm in that spot, and Leaf Storm was there in case I really wanted to just like nuke a roosted Zapdos or a Melodic, but the problem is that if I ever go for it, it does bring in potentially Scolipede, Zoroark, Nasty Plot, or Megalopoly just to knock me out because I am at -2, not going to do all that much damage, even with the modest Technician boosted moves. So didn't really want to go for that, and I figured maybe HP Ice could be good for Zapdos during the long game. Next up we have Scarf Swallow. This is going to be my main check to Megalopoly as long as it burns the Fake Out. I never want to come in on this and take a Fake Out and a Quick Attack. I know I can take one or the other, I can take both. Especially if rocks are up, I think this is going to be a hard, kind of a problem for this Swallow. Basically, with my 52 defense, 252 special attack, 204 speed, I do outpace the Scolipede. Even at +1, if it gets +2, it doesn't matter. I'm not coming in on it at all at that point. 52 defense is there. It can take a Fake Out plus Quick Attack, and then I can knock it out Megalopoly with either Boomber if it's in range, or Hurricane just outright. But I hit the goddamn Hurricane, which, as you saw with like John's match, not the easiest thing sometimes. Heat Wave is there for Fortress, U-Turn is there for Pivot. Very standard set, very straightforward set, but this thing has worked before. I think it can work here. It is a very nice check to one of the biggest problems for my team, that is Megalopoly. Next up, we have Meloetta. This is my main spec Sylveon check, and Sylveon was a problem for my team across the many like mocks that I had. Basically, spec Sylveon, if it is like Hyper Voice or Moonblast, HP Fire, Side Shock, Baton Pass, Toxic, Heal Bell, something like that. Really didn't have very many switches. I still don't have very many switches. Even with this thing, it's still 3-hit KO'd, but I can, knock off its specs. I can Hyper Voice it. I can Side Shock for a good like 54% to 60%. I can U-turn out in case he tries to switch. There are things that don't want to take a knockoff. Things like Mudsdale, Zapdos, Melodic, Sylveon. There are things that don't want to. Then I can outspeed because this thing is set to speed tie with an 8 speed. Non-plus speed nature Zapdos. So that's kind of the idea with this Meloetta. But if he tries to bring in Sylveon, he tries to bring in Mudsdale, tries to bring in Melodic, this thing's a very good check to two of those. I mean, I could U-turn out on the Horsey, but then Hyper Voice is going to do really good damage. It hits everything because Aster's only ghost type is Gourgeist, in which case I'm just going to U-turn out or knock off anyway if I see it in Team Preview. And then Side Shock is there so that I can hit things like Spadef, Zapdos, or Melodic a little bit harder than Hyper Voice would. So Modest is there just because it does the most amount of damage while still having that necessary bulk, because I wanted to invest it so that I could take 3 Hyper Voices, Specs Hyper Voices after rocks. 252 HP, 140 Spadef, 84 speed, like I said, and 4 defense. I like this set a lot. This is my best check, and I really like Meloetta as a good mon in this matchup. Next up, we have Dr. Fetus, the Musharna. This is my first time bringing it. This is what I used, and I replaced, I believe, Karagonal. This is going to be a Z-mon, but I'm not going to use it with a Z move this match. We're seeing for the first time I'm not bringing Landorus, because I feel like Landorus in this matchup is hard checked by like 3 or 4 different things. If I'm flying him, he has Zapdos and Mudsdale to switch in. If I am grounding him, he has Zapdos as well as even like Mudsdale if it's max defense to switch in. If I'm rocking him, then he has Melodic and Mudsdale to switch in. So you see my problem with Landorus. First week I'm not bringing it because I feel like there's a lot of things that just hard check it. Really not a big fan of it. Gonna try and not use it in this match because yes, while it's a good mon, it still always fails to some matchups. And that is this one, because I suspect that Scolipede is going to be running Water MZ to hit it. I expect that Landorus is not a switch in to any sort of Megalopoly because Megalopoly is faster. Return plus Ice Punch will just bop it, and I'm not really a big fan. Same thing with Zoroark, can run HP Ice, and I just really don't like it. So not bringing it. Then finally, as I said with Musharna, this is my main Megalopoly switch. Now, if it's Jolly, I tank these hits, I can Moonlight, but if it's Adamant, a little more of a hard time, especially with rocks up. A Rock Helmet is going to get some nice chip off as I would need for the Musharna. Synchronize is there just in case something like Melodic tries to Toxic me, same with Zapdos. I have Psychic, Toxic, Baton Pass, Moonlight for health, Toxic for whittling down the walls. Psychic there is for Megalopony as well as Scolipede. Scolipede bops this, but hey, it's there. And then Baton Pass is there to gain momentum if he tries to bring Gourgeist or Zoroark in aggressively on it. So, 252 HP, 212 defense, 44 Spadef relaxed. It is a check. It is the best check I have, and I'm going to use it like that because I didn't really want to bring Diancie. I think it's a little bit too passive. He does have things that can really threaten it out, and it is going to get whittled down over time, whereas at least Musharna has direct recovery. So that's kind of what I'm rolling with. His team that we're looking at right now, we see that his roster consists of Scolipede, which is a Z user, Sylveon, Darmanitan, Fortress, Melodic, Zoroark, Zapdos, Gourgeist, Mudsdale, Barbaracle, which is also a Z user, as well as Megalopony. We see that he brings Megalopony, Zoroark, Mudsdale, Zapdos, Melodic, and Scolipede. Scolipede, I suspect, is a Z user. Melodic is his Mega, obviously. Seeing Zoroark means I have to play a little bit more careful with Meloetta as well as Musharna, just to make sure I can pivot out, remain with momentum on my side. But I know Roserade as well as Rotom can take advantage of the 3 walls right there in the middle, Mudsdale, Zapdos, and Melodic. We don't see Sylveon, so I'm super happy I don't see Sylveon. There was like 4 or 5 things on his team that really threatened my team, and that was especially Megalopony, especially Scolipede, Sylveon, which I already talked about, Zoroark, and Darmanitan. We don't see 2 of those because I feel like if we want Darmanitan and Sylveon, he's more of a very like hyper-offensive type team. But I also feel like Sylveon could have replaced Zoroark right there, especially if it's like a Wish Protect, Psyshock, and like Hyper Voice or Moonblast set. That set would do a very good job, especially if it's like Keviberry in checking Komodo. He can, take like a Poison Jab if I am a setup set, and if he has like max defense or something, he can, or even if he's Spadef, he could take a Sludge Bomb from Roserade, knock me out with a Psyshock. So I see how it could have been brought, but Zoroark is also more offensive mon, which that's pretty much Aster's, like, he has to go super offensive for this team specifically. So we don't see Barbaracle, we don't see Gourgeist, we don't see Fortress. Fortress, I don't think he was bringing because it was a little bit too passive. Gourgeist, didn't really see it, didn't think it really helped. And then Barbaracle, I saw it in 2 mocks and didn't do all that much unless the team had proper support, like Light Screen or Reflect support from things like Melodic or Zapdos, but I don't think he can afford that in this matchup. So that's his team. That's my team. I know for a fact I am going to lead with Swellow. Basically thinking that if he doesn't lead with Megalop, and he leads with like Scolipede or leads like Zapdos or something, I can just pivot right out. And if he tries to lead with anything that's not Megalopony and he tries to disguise it as Zoroark, if I U-turn, it's super effective damage. Granted, I am a timid Swellow, so it's not going to do that much damage, but it's still good damage, and it would break Zoroark's disguise and show me right off the bat what Zoroark looks like, how much damage I got on it, and for the first time in a long time, I would actually be writing down what damage I got on things, because with Zoroark in Team Preview, I got to be aware of what comes in and what it looks like when it's disguised as it comes in. So moving along, I'm going to hop right into the match. Very looking forward to facing Aster. He is someone who I enjoyed watching in the D-League, and now I get to play him in, of course, the GBA. So let's go. Match I'm very excited for. We lead off with Swellow. He leads off with Megalopony. Now, I could have led off with Rotom here. It was in the back of my mind that I could have also done that. The problem is that it was really the same thing, because while Rotom is good in the long game for like things like Zapdos as well as Melodic, I didn't want this thing to take a high jump kick right off the bat, because seeing Swellow forces him to fake out. I didn't want to go into Musharna here because I feel like Rotom could get more damage off earlier, that Musharna I just didn't really like leading off it until I could see what the damage rolls are from this Melodic against Rotom. Now I'm defensive, I do take this barely, and it allows me to Toxic. So this is residual damage that's really nice against this Megalopony, and I'm gonna like this whittling down of this big problem for my team. And right here, I know that I can Pain Split on potentially three things: Melodic, Zapdos if it's slower, and especially Mudsdale. I could Pain Split on any of the 3. If I get behind a sub especially, I could Pain Split, and that's really good times for Rotom, so I'm going to try and do that. I'm now going to go into Musharna, and he busts out the Facade. Now, based on his damage, I see he goes for Facade. If he's Jolly, this does less than half, or way less than half. If he's Adamant, it's just about half. We see that he's Adamant. This is more like a low roll, but then we see he goes for a second Facade, and this is a really high roll he's going to get, because it goes from over half to knocking me out. Kind of sucked. I get 2 rolls of Rocky Helmet damage. I would have liked if he got another low roll, which, kind of sucked, but if he got 2 low rolls, this would have, that 3rd round of Rocky Helmet damage would have been really clutch, especially with the Toxic rolling, racking up. that was kind of what I was going for, but he does do a good job staying in. This does bring in my Swallow. No rocks are up, so I am just going to go for a Boom Burst. There's no reason for me here to go for like U-turn or for Heat Wave or something. I'm just going to go for Boom Burst. Going to get off some really solid damage. We see that the Zapdos is kind of defensive, has HP, has maybe some Spadef investment, but the Scarf Swallow does a good chunk of damage that I'm going to take, every day. He's going to go for Roosters. I'm going to go to Meloetta. Now, without seeing Sylveon in the team preview, I know that Meloetta is a good check to Zapdos, Melodic, and, well, that's pretty much it. And Zoroark late game. So, as long as I keep this thing relatively healthy. We see he goes for Volt Switch, and that does 8, about. And right here, I'm just going to go for Knockoff. And whether I knocked off his item, I didn't see leftovers, so I know he's like some sort of like a damage reduction berry, maybe Eopapa. But instead, we see Eopapa here on a Melodic. I expected Flame Orb, I expected more like leftovers, but I go for a U-turn then. I know it's not going to do any damage, but I also know that Psyshock and Hyper Voice are not going to do that much damage, so why would I stay in and go for those moves when he can just recover it off? He's going to go for a Scald and try and get a burn on me, maybe see what I'm going to go into, but this is a perfect opportunity for me to get into Rotom, get this thing healthy, and be a vast, annoying force against his team. Right here, I'm going to go for Pain Split, just outright. If he had Toxic, he'd show it, but I think looking at Recover plus Scald, I expect that I don't know what his last 2 moves are, maybe Toxic, but right here I knew that Pain Split was necessary early, just so that I was in range where I can, in fact, sub up. I do see here that I'm also faster, so I can take advantage of that. I didn't predict him to switch here, but I also knew that if he shows Toxic right there and I get behind a sub, it's a free sub, that's a free Toxic on anything. It's basically what I'm going to do, but when he hard switches into Zapdos, I think to myself, and I took most of the turn time to figure this one out. I'm going to double sub, and here's why. He is faster, so this means this Zapdos is extremely fast. And this basically allows me to force whatever comes in next to take another Pain Split. If it's Melodic, fine. I'm just going to whittle it down, and when I'm behind a sub again, I could Toxic it. If he goes into Megalopony, I can just then Volt Switch and I probably kill it. If he goes into Zoroark, I can Volt Switch and probably get big damage off. Basically, he goes into Scolipede instead. And this is a really good opportunity. He does Poison Jab. And I am just going to end up just Pain Splitting. Because I'm at low HP, and I want to get this thing down to about 70-ish%. Which I think that's what I get it to. Oh, actually less than that. So about 60, maybe 55% or so. But with leftovers, it's supposed to be way out of range for any sort of Poison Jab, any sort of Mega Horn. And this allows me to Volt Switch. Now, knowing that how much this Volt Switch is going to do, if he has some HP investment, this is going to do about 60%. If he has no HP investment, this is going to do about 70%. So we're going to see here, I'm not going to knock him out, but I'm going to put him in the red. And this means that Kommo-o can come in worry-free. He's at +2, unless, like I talked about prior to the match. If he is Acid Downpour, this is going to do 97.2% max. He cannot knock me out, especially with rocks not being up. He's going to go for Poison Jabs. He's not going to bother. I think he told me after the game that he had Waternium Z. So that would have did like 8. And I'm just going to Flamethrower, knock out this Scolipede. I really liked how I dealt with this Scolipede. I pretty much just had one Mon take damage. He was at like +3 speed. Really didn't matter. And I'm really happy about how that little exchange went. Basically allowed me to knock something out while still getting Rotom healthy, while getting Kommo-o in for pretty much for free. And, of course, allowed me to put a lot of hurt onto his team, and pressure especially. I'm going to go for Stealth Rock. I thought here like we could probably just exchange rocks. He could have went for Earthquake, but instead he goes for Toxic, expecting me to switch out and potentially like Rotom. Aggressive read on his end, but I wasn't really going to switch. I thought about going into Rotom just to pressure his rocks. I could have done that, but in case the thing was like AV, or his thing went for Earthquake outright, trying to knock out Kommo-o, especially at half if he was like an Adamant. Mudsdale, I wasn't living that, and I really didn't want Roserade to go down for no reason. So I just let him get his rocks up as I get my rocks up. And my idea here was that if I have my rocks up and he gets his up, if it's pressuring him, especially with like Lopunny being toxic and stuff and Zapdos coming in, it also shows me what Zoroark is when it comes in, and it takes like only 12% as compared to like 25%, or Melodic I already know I had some damage on. And basically, it forces him to also defog his rocks away from my side of the field, which then helps Swallow also. I'm going to go for Drain Punch. We see that he is max HP, max defense, because that does about 7. He's going for Earthquake. It's not going to knock me out. It's going to do about 50 damage. And right here, I am just going to basically go like drain. He's at +1 after the stamina boost. I'm gonna go for another. I was thinking about going for another Drain Punch, but that would have done less than Flamethrower, which obviously I was packing but never clicked yet. It's doing less, so now I'm just gonna go for a Flamethrower, and I am gonna end up knocking out this. The intention is to die as he goes for another Earthquake while still getting damage, as well as the Toxic racking up. Instead, he's gonna switch. He's gonna go into Zapdos, and this Flamethrower. I mean, with the rocks, it'll put him down to about 50%, maybe even like 57, almost like 60%, because as we know, the Zapdos is a little bulky. I'm a negative special attack nature, so I didn't really expect it was going to be all that much damage, but if Mudsdale had stayed in, Flamethrower was the better click, and even though Zapdos can roost his damage off, I'd like him to knock me out, and I could just get damage off and potentially Toxic this, but instead he just knocks me out with HP Ice. It looked like, I guess this is also for Landorus, because, you know, rightfully so, it is it's faster, has coverage, and can also pivot out in the case that I am like scarfed, you know, things like that. So he's gonna go for Volt Switch as he switches out. I was kind of worried that he was gonna go for HP Ice there, but I knew I could live it. And I'm just gonna go right for a Sludge Bomb, because if he was like Yachi, because I hadn't seen leftovers, I didn't want him to go for HP Ice, get off massive damage, be faster, and then I barely do all that much damage with a modest E-Belt HP Ice, where instead I go for Sludge Bomb, and I know that if whether Melodic or this Mudsdale come in, I can just go for a Giga Drain, get all my life back, and that puts me in it puts Roserade at a, you know, max HP, and knocks out one of his kind of wall. That's not really the biggest problem. Like, losing Mudsdale on his side is not the biggest deal, but it does puts me in a good position to kind of continue to pressure his mons. Like, going into Lopunny here, he is going to take 6%, and of course another 6% from the Toxic at the end of the turn. I am going to end up sacking off my Rotom here, because whether it goes for Sod or High Jump Kick, I really don't have good switches anymore. Basically, whatever comes in is going to have to die to move, and I'm making sure Swellow gets in after a turn where he could potentially burn a Fake Out. At this point, he's never going to be clicking Fake Out, because now that's 2 turns that he has to click a move, which then, of course, is going to be racking up Toxic Orb damage, or the Toxic damage. I'm going to go into Swellow here, and I believe I claim a kill with Boom Burst. Again, there was no reason for me to click anything else, especially when he still has a healthy Melodic here. I am going to go just for a Boom Burst, and we're going to see this does about 30%, so we know this Melodic is super Spadef, and I'm not going to knock him out with another one, and I really don't want him to go for Ice Beam, because that would just knock out Swellow. And of course, that would get rid of my Mega Lopunny check. I'm going to go to Roserade. I know this thing can take on this Melodic here. He does go for Recover, and I expect him to go for Ice Beam, you know, after this turn is all complete. I know he has no item, but he is obviously back to 100%. I'm going to go for Giga Drain. I know it's going to do about 70%, and this is going to be some really nice damage for, you know, for Roserade here. If I had Leaf Storm, that was just a straight Oko, but he pulls out the goddamn Miracle, and this got me, and I was just like I felt it. I felt like legitimately like bad that he got me with the Miracle. But also on the same token, what else was I really going to go into? Rotom was not going to be able to knock him out. You know, I would never think to like scout for that, and basically losing Roserade, I mean, granted, Zapdos was faster, Melodic was low, Zoroark was faster, Scolpy was gone, and Mega Lopunny was faster. So even with Roserade, I would have been able to knock out Melodic, but then he would still he'd be able to bring in something that would be able to revenge me, whether it was Zoroark with like an extra sensory, whether it was Zapdos with HP Ice. The only thing I would really be able to do is go for HP Ice myself, which only would have done about 50%. Now, when he brings in this Zapdos, I see it only does 6% or 12% from the rocks damage. I know that this is Zoroark. That pretty much allows me to go into my Meloetta here. I know I can take one Dark Pulse. I almost went to Swallow like an idiot, and it took me a while to like wait, you know, actually like, you know, turn my brain on for a second. But I end up going for Hyper Voice. I know that it knocks out the Zoroark from the range that he was at. And I also know that him bringing in Zapdos with the rocks damage would allow me to knock it out with Hyper Voice. He's going to go into Mega Lopunny here. He's going to take another 12% from the rocks and the toxic damage, and you know, he's getting real low. And I know that like one more time in, rocks plus toxic means that I'd win. It is getting super down to the wire in this last bit, so I know that if he stays in, I pretty much win. And he goes into Zoroark here, and I just click Boom Burst. There's no reason for me to click anything else. And when he switches out, I go, damn, that's when I lost, because pretty much, unless he has Sucker Punch here, it's either 2-0 or 1-0 for him, because I think there's Fake Out. I'm not in range to take one. Fake Out was doing like 33 to 40%, I believe. So if I didn't come in on the rocks, I could have taken one. But the problem is that with losing Roserade to that mirror blast, same thing. Basically, is what cost me the game. But he hit the Lop. Just so you guys are aware, the Lopunny had 2 HP. That's what it lived on, and that's what I lost to. But I gotta say, call it what it is. That was easily one of the best, closest, down to the wire matches that I've had between two teams that, at this point in the season, are fighting just to be competitive. We're not fighting for playoff spots because spoiler, with Chimp beating Necro, Aster and I were simultaneously eliminated from playoff contention. So all we're playing for is pride. And this is the first time I've sat down and I've played a match since probably Wolfie, or probably before that, John, even Mono, where I sat down and I was happy with how I played. Gio's match, it came down to me having the balls to click a Swords Dance twice, facing a Ditto. I wasn't going to do that. And even in Gio's match this week, where he could have done that with the double D dance in front of a Gardevoir, he could have won that way too. But that is such a ballsy play that you have to be out of your skull to do. I wasn't going to do that. But then the matches against Gator, the matches against Wolfie, the match against Chimp, it comes down to these little things that make you lose big or you win big. Or the Hax Gods decide to say, hey, go fuck yourself, you're going to lose. So in this match, we're talking about a game that went back and forth. Things got checked, things got killed, and the end game was just that either it was a 2-0 if he had Sucker Punch with a mixed Zoroark, he ended up being Assault Vest, or it was a 1-0 like we saw. Mega Lopunny lived with 2 HP. So if I had spikes on Roserade, Mega Lopunny would have died. It wouldn't be able to come in. I think 2 times it would have died before that with the toxic damage, the Rocky Helmet damage, the rocks damage, spikes damage. But that also means that Zapdos would have had the opportunity to defog, which means that could have been irrelevant. And then you also have, if I had Leaf Storm, I just blew back Melodic from full. The spread that he was at with me being, Ma's Technician, blew back Melodic, so Miracle wouldn't have been a thing. I probably could have won, but in my match against Chimp in Week 4, I'm not going to hold that against myself because this game was fantastic, and I really enjoyed playing Aster, and I hope that I get a chance to play him in the future again, whether in the same division, same conference, whatever, because I know that if I can hang with him and I can hang with a lot of people and I'm not as bad as I tell myself, then you know what, maybe I'm good enough to compete with the people that are the top cut in the GBA. And you know what, draft a team next year that's a little bit better, that I know that mixes how I played this season with a little bit more bulk. We'll see what happens. So that'll be the match. I think it was a great game. I think we saved this best game for last between two relevant teams. This was not Haxy outside of the really high roll he got against Musharna with his Adamant Lop. And then besides that, the first turn P-Jab was whatever. I mean, he's going to Toxic anyway with Mudsdale if he didn't get the poison there anyway. So that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I think I played really well, and I hope you guys see that too. Leave your comments down below. We're going to be uploading this, I believe, on Tuesday. And it's a little bit late just because he and I played at 11:30 on Sunday. Yeah, we really pushed up against the wall for this one. So let me know what you guys think of the match. Let me know what you guys think about how I played, where I could have, played a little bit differently to win. I struggled to kind of see that myself. I'm going to take off because this is a 29-minute video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys leave your comments and really, watch this match and enjoy it the same way that I enjoyed playing it. So I'll see you guys next week. Week 11, the second to last GBA week. We're going with Necro Stevo. He is winless. I do not want to give him that first win. So we're going to try and catch another W like we did last time against Necro. Have another good game, and we'll see what happens. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. No PPL match this week because we're on a week break because so many teams are dropping and being added. So kind of did a break week so that everyone can get reacclimated to being on time. So I'll talk to you guys later. Until next week. Bye.